Okay, picture this. You get home after a long day, and your apartment feels like a sauna. So you check the thermostat. It's off. You walk over to the air conditioner. It's off too. But there is still heat just pouring into the room, and you can practically hear your power meter screaming. This isn't just some made-up scenario. It's the real beginning of a wild story about a tenant, a seriously dangerous apartment, and a corporate setup that you almost have to see to believe. So let's get into it. Right, because that is the central mystery we are digging into today. I mean, it sounds completely impossible, doesn't it? But for one tenant in New York City, this was a very, very real and incredibly expensive nightmare. So the first signs that something was seriously wrong were just bizarre. The tenant's two AC units were blasting out air at a scorching 110 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 43 Celsius. But here's the kicker. This was happening when the units were completely switched off. And at the same time, they were pulling a huge amount of electricity, which you can imagine led to a pretty nasty surprise on the power bill. Yeah, this mess was costing the tenant an extra $700 a month. This wasn't just a little glitch. It was a massive financial drain from appliances that were supposed to be doing absolutely nothing. So what in the world was going on here? Well, the culprits were these things, PTAC units. You've definitely seen them before, probably in a hotel room or an apartment building. They're these all-in-one boxes that do both the heating and the cooling. And in this case, the problem had nothing to do with the AC and everything to do with a heating element that had gone completely rogue. To really understand how crazy this is, just look at these numbers. A normal device on standby, plugged in but off, might use maybe 1 to 5 watts. These faulty units, while completely off, were each pulling almost 1900 watts. That's like having a couple of powerful space heaters running 24/7 without you even knowing it. So how is that even possible? How can a machine that's turned off be doing this? Well, the most likely cause is a tiny part called a contactor or a relay. It's basically an electrical switch, and it got stuck in the on position. This forces the heating element inside to just run and run and run, totally bypassing the thermostat and the power button. And listen, this isn't just about a high energy bill. A heater that runs nonstop with no safety controls is a massive fire risk. So the tenant reported the problem, of course, but the landlord was dragging their feet. And as they started to dig a little deeper, they found something that changed the entire story. Turns out the company that owned their building and the company that was sending them that enormous electricity bill, well, they weren't exactly separate businesses. And here it is. This is the heart of the problem. The landlord, Brookfield Properties, also owns Metergy Solutions, the utility company that profits from every single kilowatt hour of that wasted electricity. So when the tenant's bill shot up by over $700, where did that money go? It went right back into the pockets of their landlord's parent company. This quote from the source material just nails it perfectly. Think about it. There is absolutely zero financial incentive for the landlord to rush and fix a problem that their other company is directly profiting from. It's a system where the tenant is completely trapped, paying for the landlord's broken equipment and making their corporate owner richer in the process. And this is where the story gets so much bigger. The tenants started talking to their neighbors, and what do you know? They quickly realized they weren't alone. Other people had insane bills and weirdly behaving AC units. This wasn't just a one-off faulty unit, it was a pattern. It was a big pattern. In fact, over 200 residents ended up joining forces and creating a tenant group. They started sharing their stories, comparing their utility bills, and it became clear they were all facing a systemic failure across the entire building. And just like that, a bunch of individual complaints became one powerful, unified voice. And the potential cost for the landlord to actually fix this building-wide? Whoa. It is staggering. Estimates to replace all the bad units in the building start at $4 million and go up to over $6.5 million. Now you can see a very powerful financial reason for the landlord to delay, to ignore, and to try and downplay what the tenants were saying. So all of this brings up a huge question for any of us who rent. When you're up against a massive corporation that seems to hold all the power, what can you actually do? Well, it turns out you can do quite a lot as long as you know the right steps to take. The foundation for fighting back is always documentation. Every single phone call, every email, every photo of that busted appliance, it all creates a paper trail.
And that paper trail is incredibly hard for a landlord to argue with. You have to log the dates, the times, the specific details. It changes your complaint from "my AC is broken" to "on October 26th at 3 p.m., the unit was blowing 110-degree air while switched off." See? So much more powerful.
Now, in a lot of cities like New York, there are official channels you can use to report these problems. Filing a complaint with a service like 311 does more than just ask for help. It creates an official, time-stamped record of the problem with a government agency. This can trigger inspections from the city and puts real formal pressure on your landlord to finally do something. This right here is the legal foundation for tenant rights in many places. It's called the warranty of habitability, and it basically means your landlord is legally required to give you a safe and livable home. An appliance that's constantly overheating, that poses a fire risk, and makes your apartment unbearable, that is a crystal clear violation of this warranty. And when talking doesn't work, tenants have some serious legal tools. A document like this one, an order to show cause, lets a tenant take their landlord directly to housing court to force them to make repairs. It completely flips the script. Now the burden is on the landlord to stand in front of a judge and explain why they haven't fixed a dangerous situation. So, why does one overheating apartment in one building matter to the rest of us? Because it peels back the curtain on how a serious conflict of interest can directly hurt regular people. But more importantly, it shows that even when you're facing a multi-million-dollar corporation, one single informed tenant, who then becomes 200 organized tenants, can absolutely fight back. By documenting everything, by using city resources, and by understanding their rights, they can hold landlords accountable and demand the safe homes that they are legally guaranteed.